Okay, shalom, shalom. Kwam Yasha'Allah, Koholoyim La Yahweh, Bahashim Yahawashi, Bahashim, Erkahachadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and that by the Spirit taught us this beautiful truth. And just want to say the water to all the H.I.M and H.I.M that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashim Yahawashi to the best of their ability. This is Yahchanan Nawah. Just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. And this article is in Fortune. This is Anthony Scaramucci. Says America's billionaires and presidents have forgotten the lesson that destroyed Rome, which this is spiritually Rome, man. This is Rome all over again, basically. This beast system of Esau, man. You know, Babylon the Great, the Americas, which is the top Edomite nation of chaos on the planet, you know what I'm saying, other than Amalek, those people that are over there and isn't real. You know what I'm saying? But these Edomites are falling on every level. Every single continent that they're in, of course, it was stolen. And they've enslaved the whole entire planet. Everyone is oppressed. And it's at an end, you know, and everything comes to an end, man. You know, everything comes to an end. And everything is actually recycled because nothing is new under the sun, which I want to get that. But this particular kingdom right here, you know, this is the last time Esau will ever run any kingdoms ever again, man. This is it. This is his last run, man. And I was just watching the elder from South Carolina. He was playing these memes of these nations just doing cartoons, just going hard as hell on America and Esau in general, man. Just how stupid they're looking on the world stage, man. But this guy, he cooking, man, in this particular article. It says the Greeks had a word for what happens when power goes unchecked. Hubris. The pattern in their tragedies is always the same. A leader, swollen with success, decides the rules no longer apply to him. These men were not intrinsically evil. Oh, no, they were. Just like, because Esau is the wicked, man, that the Bible speaks of. Their gifts fueled their overreach while the course watched the collapse. Looking at America's billionaire class and its executive branch today, the warnings from antiquity have never felt more urgent, right? Let me just grab that Ecclesiastes. Let me go into it. Because there is a circuit to the planet. There is a circuit to things. They say what goes around comes around, so to speak. You know, you have seasons. It's like, you know, right now we're going into spring. Then, you know what I'm saying, summer start to break loose, you know, and then you got fall all over again, then winter. It's always been that way. You got the moon go up, you know what I'm saying, goes around, does its circuit. The sun does its circuit, you know. So, and people by the Spirit does circuits as well, you know, because the Lord, he created all the spirits, and spirits don't die. Right, that's why we're, you know, the apostle, beloved apostle Tahar been calling Trump Nero. You're saying, you know, we think that he's really Nero back on the planet, that cruel king, man. Okay, but this is Ecclesiastes 1. Let me start at verse 3. What profit hath a man of all his labor, which he taketh under the sun? One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. So one generation passeth away, and another generation cometh. It's gonna circuit. It's gonna be a recircle, and everybody comes back every third to fourth generation. You come back, as you know, because the spirits don't die. The body decomposes, goes into the grave. Matter of fact, that's on Ecclesiastes 12 and 7. Matter of fact, let me jump to that real quick, and I'll jump right back to this. Ecclesiastes 12 and 7, it says, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto Yahweh who gave it. So when your spirit returns to Yahweh, you stand before him, you know, you get your punishment from the past life that you lived, so to speak. Third or fourth generation, the Lord will put parents back together, and he'll send that spirit right back into the planet. That spirit is never dead. That spirit never dies. Right? So let's go back to verse chapter 1. In verse 4 again, it says, one generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. So all these Edomites that's on the planet now, they've been on the planet before. All you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you Israelites, we've all lived multiple lives, man. That's actually in the Apocrypha as well. Well, you know, we have to live our seeds. And we're praying that this is our last seed. This is our last time in this particular realm of captivity, so to speak, before the kingdom comes. Okay, verse 5, it says, the sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteneth to his place where he arose. So there's a circuit with that. The wind goeth towards the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. See? All rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full unto the place from whence the rivers come. Thither they return again. See that? So this is the same thing with Esau and his kingdoms. And the Lord, he sets up kingdoms too. Let me get that real quick. We can run back in there, because this is Daniel chapter 4 and verse 17. Because the Lord set these men up, and he breaks them down. He sets up kingdoms and he breaks them down. 4 and 17, Daniel 4 and 17, it says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the bases of men. See? So all these nations that's out here right now, Iran battling back and forth, you know what I'm saying, with America, Israel, you know, Russia, Ukraine, all these different nations, the Lord set up those nations. I think it's like 190 something. Almost 200 nations in the world. The Lord set up all those nations and set up all the men, even these women that are in these positions that they're in. The Lord set them all up in these positions that they're in. Right? But Esau, this man is the wicked, man. Let's go back to the article. Let's see what else this guy Scaramucci has to say. It says, when success becomes a license to rule. Yeah. Because these people don't have no wisdom. You got stupid ass people with money. You know? That's what King Solomon was talking about, all his hard work. He I think it's in Ecclesiastes where he was talking about you know, basically him being wise, and he came across all the wealth that he had by his work, you know, by his skill, so to speak, by his intelligence, so to speak, you know. But it was all given by Yahweh Shai. But what he was speaking on, roughly paraphrasing, is you having a stupid ass son that can just squander it all. You know? Just because you have money don't make you a smart person. There's plenty of people that inherit, you know, all the billions from their parents or whoever, and then they just stupid as hell. They don't have no working class mentality. They don't have no ethnics. They don't have no, you know, integrity. They don't have nothing. They just got the money, and whatever fool they are, they're just more of a fool. They're just a bigger fool with more money. Okay, it says, we are living through an era in which a small number of individuals have accumulated influence that rivals or exceeds that of sovereign governments. Yeah. Think billionaires who control vast technology platforms, media empires, and financial networks. And that's that going into that technocracy, man. You know? And mainly Israel, you know, they trying to set up shop. And overall, you know, it's just these bankers. These Edomite bankers, you know what I'm saying? The elite that you never see. That's about to try and perpetually enslave everyone with that market of beauty and the beast. That Revelation 13:16. These are the people. It's just a few people that's running shit. That shit is crazy. And they're not sharing with their, you know, with their own people. Okay, but it says, think billionaires who control vast technology platforms, media empires, and financial networks. At the same time, presidential authority has expanded to a degree that would have alarmed the framers of the American Constitution. Yeah, he's far out of what the for this dude. They asked him about the Constitution. He was like, well, you know, my lawyers will have to check over that. Some shit he was saying. It's like, do you believe in the Constitution? He didn't say yes. That nigga was like, hey, I had to have my lawyers look over that pretty much overall. It says, with increasing overlap between both, the result is a special kind of arrogance. The conviction that personal wealth and political office confers not just power, but infallible wisdom. This is hubris in the age of algorithms and executive orders. Yeah, I'll say, I think, was that it on it? Let me see here. Cicero, writing in the final tumultuous decades of the Roman Republic, wrote that we are slaves to the law in order to be free. It's profound in its simplicity. Freedom does not come from the absence of constraint. It comes from our willingness to suborn a certain degree of individual will to a broader shared process. Structures like the law, the Constitution, and regulatory frameworks are not obstacles to greatness, and they are not the domain of the shadowy deep state. They are the architecture within which greatness can thrive, free from tyranny. Cicero understood this because he watched in real time as Rome's elites began to treat the Republic institution as inconveniences rather than sacred obligations. Julius Caesar did not destroy the Roman Republic with a single act of violence. He destroyed it by systematically treating its process as mere suggestions. Yeah, man. Hey, so, and we're witnessing the fall of our enemy, man. Let me get that real quick. That's all. Separation, division, all that plays a part in that, man. Let me go into this apocrypha real quick. Yeah, we're living in beautiful times, man. We're watching a kingdom, an empire actually fall right before our very eyes, man. And there's no coming back from it. Ecclesiasticus 25:7, also known as the Book of Sirach. There be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy. And the 10th I will utter with my tongue, a man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. And that's what we're witnessing, man. We're witnessing the fall of all of our enemies. And the Lord is just putting them all, against each other right now. And there's it's real division amongst all the, when you go into Psalms chapter 83, you get all the enemies of the Lord. All the nations are named. They're enemies of the Lord, and they're enemies of the Israelites, the real true Hebrew Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And so the Lord, he's causing that division even amongst them. He's causing division amongst Esau, Edom, the so-called white race, but he's also causing division amongst his partners when it comes to these other nations, because they're all in on keeping us from knowing who we are. As long as they can keep the Israelites down, see, all that shit is breaking apart. All that is a done deal. Now it is shifting. That's going on in the atmosphere, man, by the Spirit. And these nations that would normally get together and do business, and they may have their differences. They may have some disagreements, but one thing they always do agree upon is to never let you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans know that you are royalty, that you are the children of Israel. They don't want you to know that. And again, when you go into Psalm chapter 83, you can get the list of the enemies right here. And it's all these nations. It's all these nations. All these nations are against you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You cannot get around it. They're the ones that's in your neighborhoods that's just licking up every damn thing that they can get from us. Selling us the boldest shit, Owning all the damn stores. They own all the supermarkets. They own the mechanic shops you got to go to. They own the banks. They own the gas stations you got to go to. Watering down the fucking gas, Beauty supply stores. I don't give a fuck what it is that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans need, especially amongst so-called blacks, I would say the tribe of Judah. They're in control of all those things. We're not in control of anything. We just go to work and they take money from us in the name of taxes. That's it, man. We're done. This is Psalms 83. Let me start from the top here. A song or a psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies. See, the Lord has enemies, and those enemies of the Lord, they're our enemies too. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. So they're prideful. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. And that's all these nations. Mainly Esau, though. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, he's number one on the list, though. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. See? They don't want you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to know that you are actually Israelites. You come from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel, or Yasharallah in the Hebrew tongue. He had 12 sons, and we all come from one of those 12 sons. And that land that isn't real. Those small tops over there that, you know, they're trying to take all that land over there and got America stuck in this Iranian bullshit, which is gonna fail. But all that land over there, that belongs to us, and we're one day going back to it, and it's gonna be soon. The Lord is just he's ruffling their feathers right now. He's putting, you know, he's putting them all against each other, right? It says, for they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. So it says, with one consent, they together. When it comes to keeping you Negroes, you know, Hispanics and Native Americans from knowing who you are, oh, they down for that. They'll argue over prices on this, or imports, or exports, or whatever the case may be. You know, things, you know, deals. But they, you know, one thing they've always been one accord about, one consent about, is keeping you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans from knowing that you are Israelites. And the very first people on the list, verse 6 here, the tabernacles of Edom. That word Edom goes into red. And Esau, Edom, is red people. That's Esau, the so-called white man. He's not white. That's why we say so-called, because there's no such thing as white people. They're different shades of reddish colors, man. They pinkish to reddish. If you just look at them, they're not white. They don't look like a glass of milk, but that's a social construct that they've come up with to fool the world into believing that they're just this pure, lily white people, and they're not. You know, some are paler than others, but they're not white people. That's not an ethnicity. And there's no such thing as black people. That's a social construct as well. But it says the tabernacles of Edom, so-called white man, is first on the list, and the Ishmaelites. Who you think that those Iranians, those those Arabs, those Muslim, a lot of those Muslim nations, they're Ishmaelites. Moab is just so-called Chinese, and the Hagarenes, Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek. But you got Ammon, that's the so-called Japanese, and you got these Hamites in there as well. But you got Amalek. Amalek, that's the top tribe of Esau, Edom. Amalek is those people that's over there in Israel right now, claiming to be us, the identity thieves, right? But it says the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. So you got Hamites in there as well, Africans, who they call Africans today, and we're not Africans. See, that's another way that they have, tried to conceal our name or conceal who we really are, because they pushed us in with other melanated people, and we're not the same people. Got you thinking that you're African. Got you thinking that you're Egyptian. You know, why they don't call you like how the fuck are you African? Where did you come from over there? There's 54 countries in the continent of Africa. And then the very people that's telling you that you're African or Egyptian, that's giving you African studies, is so-called white people. You listening to him, your fucking enemy, as to telling you who you are and where you come from. He's not going to tell you the truth, right? But that's the point on that. But let me see what else they got in this article. I find it beautiful, man. And continue on praying for the downfall of this man's kingdom, because it is actually working. See, motherfuckers just want shit to get back to normal. Let the gas go back down. You know, they can get in their car and they can ride out on these nice little newly summer days coming in. You know, it's like 70 degrees here in Detroit. I didn't even know it was gonna be that damn warm today. Hell, I walked out of this bitch this morning with a coat on. But still, I try and be careful with this weather. But you got bitches out here, man, with they fucking, shoulders out, tits out, ass out. Couldn't wait for this little weather to break, man. On some spring break nasty slut bucket shit. Anyway, okay, but it says the parallels to our present moment are not subtle, especially when considering the modern billionaire class. Many of these individuals have built extraordinary companies and created genuine value. That is not in dispute, but somewhere along the way, a troubling development occurred. Success in one domain, whether it be technology, finance, or media, bred a self-belief that those founders could and should dictate policy on public health, education, geopolitics, space exploration, and the structure of democratic governance itself. Yep. And see, these are the very people. They don't believe in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. They don't believe in the Lord, man. See, if they were governing according to the scriptures, the world would be a lot better. The world would be a lot cleaner. But yet, Esau, he takes the scriptures and try and make it seem as if he's fooled the world into believing that he's actually righteous. But you can clearly see he's totally opposite of righteousness, man. See, let me get another script real quick. Since we in Psalms, let's stay in Psalms for a hot sec. Psalms 50 and 16. But unto wicked, Yahweh saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth, seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee? Because they did use the Bible. They used the Bible to ramshack the world. Now, all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? Now, and these motherfuckers then gave you an AI preacher, and in a lot of cases, they trying to rid the world of the scriptures, man. They don't even want the scriptures to even be taught or even mentioned no more. They trying to get rid of the Bible. You got these fucking weirdos, man, running every damn. I'm talking about some real fucking weirdos too, that's running the planet. But that's again going back into Daniel 4 and 17, where the Lord said that He can give His kingdom to the bases of men. These are stupid ass people, bro. These people are dumb as hell. But the Lord set them up. And it's only a matter of time before it completely collapses and falls, man. Because nothing can survive with this man being in power. That's just, come on, let's just be honest here. These people are dumb. They're fucking stupid as fuck, bro. With all that so-called intelligence that they have, motherfuckers is just dumb as hell. It just is what it is. I can't call it no other way. Verse 18, it says, when thou sawest a thief, then thou consentest with him, and has been partaker with adulterers. This is Esau all day. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue framest deceit. Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother. Thou slanderest thy own mother's son. And this is going back to Psalms 83 as well. Because Esau, Edom, he's the twin brother of Jacob. And he done us dirty. This man has had us in captivity for the past fucking half millennial, man. And treating us like shit. Then you got these stupid ass Israelites out here talking about how this man can be saved and he's going to be on a level with us in the kingdom. Nah, this is his kingdom right here. We're starting to watch his shit fall. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Going back to the Apocrypha. Second Esdras. Chapter 6. Let me start at verse 7. It says, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world. This is the end. His shit is caving right now. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So the further his ass fall, the quicker we rise, man. And that's why we pray for the downfall of this place. We're not rooting for this motherfucker to carry on. Fuck America. You know what I'm saying? We ain't rooting for America. We rooting for this place to cave, to fall, man. We're joyful to see Iran kicking them in the damn teeth right now, even though we don't give a fuck about them neither. Their ass is going into captivity too. Anyway, let's go back here. They playing themselves, bro, and it's beautiful. Okay, it says, oligarchy has a track record, and it isn't good. At the same time, consolidation of the media landscape has given a handful of people tremendous leverage over the information we consume, the platforms on which we communicate, and increasingly the political candidates who govern us. When a single company controls the digital public square, or when the single individual can move markets with a social media post, or when billionaire funds When billionaires fund political campaigns with the explicit expectation of policy concessions in return, we have left the realm of entrepreneurial capitalism and entered something closer to an oligarchy. An oligarchy, as Aristotle observed 2,400 years ago, is one of the most unstable and corrosive forms of government, precisely because it replaces process with patronage and merit with proximity to power. The same arrogance has infected the political sphere. The expansion of unilateral executive action, the governance by decree rather than deliberation, has accelerated in ways that should concern every citizen regardless of party. Presidents now launch military operations without congressional authorization, restructure entire agencies by command, and treat the legislative branch as an afterthought rather than a co-equal partner in governments. Yeah, that's what Trump doing. Although the trend has been building across administrations, the current moment represents something qualitatively different. An open and unapologetic assertion that the executive need not engage to the deliberate and sometimes frustrating machinery of democratic process. The framers of the Constitution designed a system of checks and balances precisely because they knew that concentrated power, however well-intentioned at the outset, inevitably descends into something destructive. The separation of powers was not a bug in the system, it is an intentional feature. And when we abandon it in the name of speed and decisiveness and strong leadership, we are not modernizing, we are regressing to the very form of governance the Enlightenment sought to overcome. Okay, so it's still, it's quite a bit more to the article. I don't want to, take it too far, but you can see what it is. Yeah, because they going into it right here, man. This is a decent little article. Yeah, man. Yeah, this is a nice little article here. Okay, but anyway, man, you see what it is. I mean, it's just time for this place to fall, man. It is what it is. You got that separation. You got all the prophecies playing out. Hey, this thing moving quick, man. This thing is moving quick. That's why we say continue on pounding Esau's ass with that prayer, man. Keep pounding his ass with that prayer of the fall of this man's kingdom, man. Pray it in the Hebrew, pray it in the English. Hey, but continue on praying for the downfall of our enemies. Let this man fall into the trap which he has set for us, man. And the fact I can end with that. Let's get Psalms chapter 7. Yeah, man, we love it. And the average person, they don't get why we applaud this shit. We applaud the fall of this man. Verse 15, Psalm 7 and 15. He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. Yup. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealings shall come down upon his own pate. Yup. I will praise Yahweh according to his righteousness, and will sing praise to the name of Yahweh Most High. Con, man. Yeah, hey, this guy, he's falling face first, man. He's been setting traps and shit. But again, too, we know that he's going to come down with great wrath, so we got to get prepared for that part. Or just pray to Yahweh about H.I.M for mercy, man, in these last days. Because Esau, he already don't care. He don't care when he got it good, when things are going good for him. So he's not going to give a fuck when things are shattering, on his ass. So I'm going to end out there. I pray that this lesson was edifying. With that, Kwame Yasha Allah and a Bible Ball.